All right, in this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to compete at BKFC 33, and that goes down on November the 18th. Quite the intriguing bout between Tommy Strydom and Cody Land, and good getting to have Cody on the show for the first time to talk a bit about that fight. How's the day going so far there, man?
Good, man. Had some sparring this morning. Some of the scrapes are from Velcro, from gloves, but yeah, good day.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious because, like, from what I can tell, just kind of doing a bit of backgrounding on social media and all, it seems like Mick Doyle's Kickboxing and Fitness Center is like the main place you're really sharpening the tools. Is that like the primary base for you?
Yeah, so that's where I'm at for any combat in general, whatever I'm competing in. We have a lot of black belts and a good group of MMA guys too. So and Mick did some bare knuckle when he was a teenager. So, I'm in good hands there.
Yeah, I mean, the localized experience definitely cool to have, but you talk about, like, maybe some of the guys you've been, like, honing skills with. Like, is there, like, a litany of people that come through, or, like, would you say there's, like, maybe a core group of people that you've, like, really gotten in the work with ahead of this fight?
I would say core. A few BKFC veterans, obviously, some teammates of mine far on the last card as well, and then just a good group of guys. We have some kickboxers and stuff like that also joined in on team training for this event.
Yeah, cool to have guys that are actively competing in BKFC there. Are these guys that are, like, around your weight range and stuff like that, or is it just a thing of, like, each person kind of, like, having that specific experience in that unique combat sport that lends itself?
A little of both, but yeah, the three pro fighters, we all fight within the same weight class, roughly. So we're right in there between 155 all the way down to 135. So good group of guys, size-wise, too, to be working with.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering, like, how you've been enjoying the BKFC run so far, because obviously you had, like, a decent bit of experience in mixed martial arts, close to 30 bouts there from what I was seeing on the Tapology, at least professionally, and this being your third fight in BKFC. How have you been enjoying the run so far? Is there a sense of, like, that incremental improvement between fights and, like, a quick learning curve, you'd say?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that for me personally, I didn't necessarily, as an MMA fighter, I didn't really look at myself as much of a striker. I usually used a lot of wrestling, and I was playing in make it a jiu-jitsu fight with some striking. But yeah, I'm starting to feel more and more like a boxer, even though this isn't, straightforward boxing. But, I think it's coming along. I enjoy camps more. It's a lot easier where you're just throwing hands and boxing and things like that. So that's a lot more fun, too.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about bare knuckle. It seems like a little more mindful of longevity. Like, obviously MMA is a great sport, but like you touched on there, it seems like there's really a lot of, like, wear and tear from the grappling there. So yeah, it seems like, bare knuckle has that, like, career longevity kind of aspect to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, if you're not getting cut open too bad in fights and stuff like that, I think the longevity is definitely there for sure.
And does your methodology differ a great deal between the combat sports there? Like, obviously you can't really, like, curate sparring situations quite the same with, like, bare knuckle and different things like that. Like, are the preparations at all different for a bare knuckle fight versus MMA? Like, obviously you're mostly focused on just the stand-up kind of portion, but are there, like, key differentiating aspects beyond that, I suppose?
For me, I just really focused on the boxing side of things and then footwork. And then, just making sure my cardio is there, working on lots of sprints and stuff like that, since the rounds are only 2 minutes with BKFC. So just making sure, fine-tuning things that it'll benefit from, so to speak.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there, and I'm kind of curious too. Like, are you somebody that is, like, using some of these, like, hand galvanizing kind of techniques? Like, I see certain bare knuckle guys that will like hit the Thai wood boards and punch sand and the whole bit, and other guys are like, I've been fighting for years now, like my hands are pretty tough already. Like, where are you at in that spectrum, I guess?
The only time I wear wraps, I've never been somebody that wore wraps a lot. I feel pretty confident in my hand strength. Knock on wood, I've done all right with the 2 bouts that I've had. And we do like a lot of knuckle push-ups, and then on like a hardwood floor in our main training area. And then I'll do, I did a little bit during the start of this camp for, bare knuckle rounds. I'll just take my wrists and do a few rounds and, turn it up, not all the way to 100, but up there. And I feel like that's helped too.
Yeah, for sure. I could imagine that for sure. It definitely makes sense. But you were kind of talking earlier about some of the jiu-jitsu experience and that part of your game. Like, I feel like BKFC is a very interesting rule set that allows like certain fluidity and the clinch positions, and obviously throughout your MMA record there's submissions and also striking based stoppages. Like, can you speak to the BKFC rule set? Like, how much of that like, I guess, grappling kind of background can you use to like frame up your opponents in close quarters, and I guess how much of a benefit is it to you there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess depending on me personally, with my height, I'm a short guy, I'm not tall, but I like to fight kind of in the close range, mid-range, and being able to have, one singular tie plum or like waist hitch or some sort of hands on them so you could have one free hand striking is kind of my flow that I like personally. And I think that with like some of the background with jiu-jitsu and even just Muay Thai, it's beneficial to kind of have an idea of where your elbow needs to be while you're trying to hold a plum and things like that. So.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, appreciate the insights into that for sure. But I'm kind of curious about the fact that you are getting to compete again this year. I would think you're excited about that. I guess, are you looking at it through any kind of like redemptive lens almost, being that the last one was, not the ideal part of the win-lose binary, or do you not look at the career in like that kind of linear sort of fashion almost, like it's just a clean slate kind of scenario?
It's a clean slate, man. For me, my amateur career, I lost my first couple. I still feel like this is a new sport. I can't necessarily look at myself 100% like a, total combat athlete, because I did very like minimal boxing and minimal kickboxing too. So, I mean, I can't necessarily look at it like that. But at the same time too, I can see, people thinking that as well. I just love to fight, man, and I'm excited that I get to be on the card again.
Yeah, and also, like I mentioned, the gym you mostly get and work at, it seems like you're also a personal trainer there as well. Like, you strike me as someone that enjoys like the fight IQ aspects of the martial arts and breaking it down to people. And you talk about, bare knuckle being like a newer sport, especially like the BKFC specific kind of rule set. Like, I guess, how exciting is it for you to be like part of this ever growing martial art where like the, I guess, curve of like the fight IQ just gets more and more pronounced and obvious seemingly on like an event to event basis?
Yeah, that's really intriguing for me. So I help coach some of our amateurs and pros in the MMA side. And for me, just learning to, work towards being a better coach as well. I try to watch some of the BKFCs and critique or look at or even, emulate some of the things that I've seen successful. And it's really interesting just in general, whether it's footwork, using certain techniques that are, famous boxers have used and that works well in BKFC, like the peekaboo technique that Tyson uses. I've seen a lot of different things, and it's, I think, like you said, every event, it seems like there's something worth watching if you're looking at it from a technical standpoint to see where other fighters are going with it as well that are a little seasoned under the banner.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking to that, seasoning in the context of this next opponent here, like he's getting ready to make his bare knuckle debut here and everything like that. Like, how much of a discernible advantage do you see that giving you, or are you not even looking at it from that kind of perspective? Because he's kind of a curious case in a certain sense. Like you said, a few MMA fights and stuff like that, but I feel like the bare knuckle debut is like a very, I'm trying to find a way to phrase it. It's like a very it's a very like performance oriented thing where it's like, okay, you're either going to like really thrive in this or you're going to get steamrolled. Like it doesn't seem like there's much nuance in the middle there. So I guess like how much do you think like that relative experience advantage is going to be like a big variable for you in this fight?
I think it will help for sure. For me, even just my debut, I've gotten in some street fights and stuff like that, but it's nothing when you're facing somebody that actually knows how to fight as well. He's I believe when he was an amateur, he was a Muay Thai champion and stuff. He's got a lot of stuff under his belt. So I expect him to be being composed and not being overwhelmed. BKFC does a good job too of making it such a good show. So we're on pay-per-view and all that stuff. So it's getting under the lights can be a little hectic if you're not seasoned with that.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And from what you're saying about your opponent, it seems like you're aware of what he's done and like, familiarizing yourself with him kind of sense. But are you like actively game planning in this one, or maybe there's not like transferable, I guess, tells from his MMA fights that maybe he could do in bare knuckle? Like, are you just focusing on your own like individual refinement to be like fluid and adaptable to whatever he might present?
Yeah, kind of how we touched it. I look at this kind of as a new sport. I think with every fight camp, I don't necessarily look, because of it being so different, I don't necessarily look at like what the opponent's doing unless they have some bare knuckle fights. But, with him being kind of a question mark of how he's going to show up for a bare knuckle fight, I'm just more, my camp and I are just trying to, fine tune better my boxing, better my footwork, work that kind of thing in that standpoint of the camp, just fine-tuning, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. And the gym has gotten a few shout outs throughout this interview, but like one thing I wanted to touch on with that was the, bring your kids to work day. That looked like a fun time there. You had Wilder come through and stuff like that. Is that like something you do like a bit regularly and stuff like that? Like what's that dynamic like? It seems fun.
Yeah, I had made a joke. My son's going to be 2 soon, and we have a small gym in our backyard that I've made too for a home gym, and I have a heavy bag too, and he'll come out and watch. And so my wife wanted to bring him on one of the spar nights. I think it was last week, and let him watch, and it was funny just having a little boy and knowing that I don't want him to follow in my footsteps, but I guess if he wants to, that's fine. But he'll pick up the boxing gloves and stuff in our home gym and go and punch the bag and stuff like that. So it's cute. It's fun, and it definitely shows me what I'm working for too.
Yeah, that's awesome that he has that like excitement and energy with it and stuff like that. And yeah, that's so fun. I mean, like you said, not really quite at an age where maybe like super comprehensively looking at it or being aware of like the level that you might do it at, but it's cool that he is like impassioned by just the whole dynamic and everything. Yeah, it seems fun to have in the gym there and everything like that.
Yeah, it's been really cool, especially just watching him age and see what I'm doing. So
yeah, no, so important, man, and you love to see it. But something I also love to touch on with fighters when I have them on, I like to get the backstory on the nicknames and whatnot. Where does Locked and Loaded come from? Was there like a specific like nucleus to that, like an origin story, person who gave it to you, etc.?
Yeah, I got in a lot of fist fights in high school, a lot of street fights, and I don't know, I got pretty well. I never really was one to start things, but I usually would finish them. And for me, the like Locked and Loaded, you're like ready to go. The gun is cocked, so to speak, and so I just kind of had a reputation of at the drop of the hat, if my buddies needed me, if they were getting jumped or whatever, I was the guy to call because I was usually, ready to go, so to speak. So that's kind of how I got the nickname.
Yeah, that's a cool nickname. So yeah, serving you well for a decent bit. I mean, you've been in combat sports for a decent bit. Looks like around like a decade plus. So yeah, some good longevity. A lot of proof that you are in fact locked and loaded. It looks like.
Trying to be, man. I think as of last month, I've been fighting for 14 years. So yeah, been getting after it for a while.
I mean, that's a hell of a milestone for sure, and I'm sure many years to come there. I guess like you bringing that up, I'm kind of wondering if there are specific like recuperation techniques you use to kind of like maintain a certain level of longevity. Is there anything like that? You seem like a health conscious enough kind of guy.
Yeah, man. I just eat right, try and take care of yourself. I'll have a drink every now and then. I'm just not a heavy drinker, and then like I have a sponsor, Biohack is what they're called here in Omaha, and doing stuff like cold plunge or infrared sauna or some of the, it's still, for me being involved in the health and wellness too, it's kind of still kind of a nuance to do like cold therapy or heat therapy and stuff like that. But I do things like that, and, got good companies taking care of me like Biohack and letting me do things like that. And that keeps me going too.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds like a lot of good things, kind of, fueling the machine, as it were. But you've been really good with your time, Cody. It's been fun getting to talk to you on the show. But I'm kind of curious if there's maybe anything you want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here.
No, I mean, I'm good. I appreciate being on the show, man, and appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, mutual, appreciation. I'm very happy you came on the show and gave some great insights ahead of this fight. And yeah, hopefully you can get that Instagram account back there. I saw you were putting your 2 cents in on Adam Levine there, so we got to get that up and running again.
Oh, yeah. I'm back up and running. Yeah, for some reason they kicked me off. That was the funniest thing. Like, literally 24 hours after that, I was kicked off of Instagram for 48 hours. I don't know what that was about, but...
Well, you're back to covering the big bases on social media now, and yeah, really excited to see this BKFC 33 fight on November 18th. And to reiterate, thanks so much for the time, Cody. You have a good rest of your day, and looking forward to checking out the fight when it goes down too.
Awesome, thank you.